Hello everyone, I am Piggy the Beast. It has been a while since my last upload. I have been busy in college and have now recently graduated. While I searched for a job, I figured I should try doing YouTube again. As you can see, part of that is returning to work on my tower defense project. Before I can get into the latest update, I just want to mention that I wrote a post about some of the future ideas for the channel with a poll about what you want to see. I'll link that post in the description if you are interested. It has been several years since I last worked on the tower defense, so I had many problems with the functions due to changes with commands, NBT data, and Minecraft systems from the many new Minecraft updates. There was not much interesting to fix as it was generally just rewriting commands. After fixing those problems, I turned my attention to seeing if any of the new changes could help improve my code. The biggest problem I had with my previous implementation was that for each tower or upgrade, I had to create several functions to get the location of the tower and to then create it. This was despite them having each very similar functions. At the time, I believe there was no way to reuse a function while having the small changes I need, like what block to look for or what structure to place. This has now changed. When Minecraft version 1.20.2 came out, a feature called macros were added. These would allow you to essentially pass values into a function. So within a function, you could use these values. It's not quite like parameters that you can directly change its value. They are also used differently as you can put them anywhere in a function the values will be pasted in. So they can be used like a constant variable or to insert a whole command. For example, I have a macro function that takes two values named message and command. The message is placed in the say command and the command is by itself in a line, so it will run a command given. Here I have the message as hello world and the command to give me a stone. As you can see, the function then says hello world and gives me a stone. Macro functions can help by being reused for the same functions for placement while only changing the inputted values. The only problem is they seemingly cannot be used in the reward section of an advancement, so I will need to create a single function that will call the placement function for each tower. I will talk about how I added macros to the functions and the problems I am now facing with them. But first, I want to explain the general idea of how these functions had worked before. For this example, I am using the basic dirt block tower. First, there is an advancement that will detect when the dirt block is placed and if it had the enchantment Unbreaking 1 on it. The reward of this advancement is the first placement function that I call Ray Start. All Ray Start does is create an armor stand, then call the Ray function, and finally revoke the advancement I had previously used. In logic order, this would do everything from the Ray function call before the advancement revoke. It does not really matter in this case. Next, the Ray function. This function starts by making the armor stand face the player if it currently is not. Next, the armor stand is teleported backwards of where it is facing by half a block. Then, it checks if the block the armor stand is at is a dirt block. If it is, the tower placement function is called, and the armor stand is removed after the function runs. If the block was not dirt, the ray function gets run again. This essentially works like a while loop that moves the armor stand backward until it is located on the correct block. Now, you may question why setting the armor stand to face the player is in this function, since it will repeatedly call two more commands than needed every time. I don't know, I only wrote the function. Finally, the tower placement function controls the placement of the tower or upgrade. First, it places the new armor stand at the exact location of the ray one. You may ask why I do this when I can just reuse the ray one. I don't know, I only wrote the function. Anyways, the block the armor stand is currently in is replaced by air. Then the 3x3x3 area that the tower is wanted to be placed in will be compared to a location in the world that has the correct area for a tower placement to be allowed. It's just that there is nothing above the grass blocks. If it matches, I set the value to 1 on the scoreboard tower check for the armor stand. I am treating this as if it was a boolean that was true. Assuming it was allowed, I placed the tower using /place template, set the attack timer for the tower armor stand to be 0. If the armor stand attack timers are not set to a number, the functions that control them do not work. In the case of upgrades, the armor stands from the previous tower will be killed. If the tower check was not set to 1, the player will be given the item they attempted to use back. For some reason, I originally had this as 2 commands for no reason, but I actually fixed that one. Finally, the placement armor stand is removed. It's not a perfect system, and it definitely has its problems, some that are unfixable and others that are, but I just haven't gotten around to them. But I will get more into those after talking about the macro functions. Now back to creating the macro functions. This started by editing the first dirt tower functions to have macros for anything I could think of needing to be changed. This included the advancement to revoke, the block to look for, block to give, and the structure to place. To give me the info for the base dirt tower, I was able to send the needed info in to get the tower placement to work, so I went out to the coarse dirt and grass block upgrades. When doing these, I realized I had missed things like initializing armor stands, killing previous armor stands, and the blocks being placed in different locations. The initializing armor stands were easy to fix as I just removed it to the function that controls the time between attacks. The placement differences require more values to be added. I only need a couple for this one, but realized I may need to add more for future ones. The biggest problem was removing previous armor stands. Each armor stand of the previous tower will have a tag about what level that tower was. This could be base, upgrade 1, upgrade 2, or upgrade 3. I also knew exactly how many since the tower upgrade will always be placed on the same tower type. So theoretically, I just need to input values of what tag to remove and how many. For some reason, this command will just not work. I've seen it work on removing the macros and just doing the command directly in-game, so I generally have no idea why it is broken. But even if it did work, at this point I was adding a lot of values that needed to be input into the macro functions. It was not a consistent placement point for blocks, so I need to add an offset for each tower. This would involve several more values that need to be input for each tower. However, the biggest problem with the current system is not due to the macro functions, but due to the ray. It is pretty easy to place a block in a way where the ray will be able to detect the block. This happens because the armor stand gets teleported from in front of to behind the block. At no point will it detect it inside that block. This can be reduced by making the teleportation distance lower, or it will take longer to reach the block. There will also still be an angle it will not detect on, so I believe I need to change the ray system. I have not figured out what to do yet, but I have some ideas. I know there are some new ways to create an interactive menu, so I will likely try that first. I think it would be cool to have a menu pop up for creating towers and showing the cost to upgrade them. Might be able to make the cost different than just one block for the towers as well. I'm excited to rework the system for the tower defense. That is currently all I have for this time. Hopefully next time I have a new placement system implemented. Hope you enjoyed this video and this new style. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I want to try to put some effort into YouTube to see if I can do anything for me. Please interact with my posts I mentioned to help determine what style of content I will do. Finally, I made a Klingon audio for this video. If you hit settings, then audio track, and press Klingon, then restart the video, you can listen to it. I promise you can understand the language. It's an unscripted talk where I go over some details and fixing the code that I did not mention here. Okay, bye everyone.